This is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Hypothetically Speaking. It's been about 4 weeks since Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at Utah Valley University. Presenting this Hypothetically Speaking episode on October the 10th, 4 weeks from the day that he was shot. We have a fair amount of evidence that we have accumulated over the course of the last couple weeks. And we're going to be reviewing that evidence together. Ballistic evidence, acoustic evidence, photographic evidence. And we're going to see if we can use this evidence to help us figure out who shot Charlie Kirk, who killed him. I don't know why. That's never been my thing. But who shot Charlie Kirk and from where? And we're going to see if we can figure that out using the evidence that we've accumulated so far in the last 4 weeks. This is going to be a long episode. We have a tremendous amount of material to review together. These are just some of the digital assets, images, videos, etc. that we're going to be going through together. Acoustic analysis, crack thump analysis, trying to figure out the radius where the shooters will be looking at the UAVs that Jason Goodman found at the venue. We'll be taking a look at that, and we'll be taking a look at some of the other crazy phenomenon going on the day that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. This is Hypothetically Speaking. I'm John Cullen. Let's get started.
Where is John Cullen is the question. Could what he was working on be the reason why we haven't heard from him? We're going to review the video that he made about Charlie Kirk, and then we'll review the one he did with Jason Goodman, saying that he was talking to Tulsi Gabbard and some other people in her office, and see if we can't figure out if that may be why we haven't heard from him in a while.
So about 3 weeks ago, Jason came on Hypothetically Speaking and shared with everybody his findings. He located UAVs, apparently, at the Utah Valley University event when Charlie Kirk was speaking. And Jason methodically went through the documentation of various objects, including birds, wasps, etc., and it was sort of the baseline of documenting these organic objects that allowed these objects to jump off the page at us. In other words, these didn't look like the birds and they didn't look like the wasps at all. And they were moving way too fast. And so in that show, I said to Jason, I believe this finding is the pivotal finding that changes the narrative. This is like the window isn't broken in Vegas. It's like the puff of smoke from the round hitting the railing in Butler that could not have come from the rooftop of AGR. So in each one of these cases that we've been investigating over the course of the years, there's a piece of evidence that just is paradoxical. It changes everything. In other words, this piece of evidence and a narrative can't both exist. And so we're going to be taking a closer look at this evidence and see, to the degree, what does the narrative, if that's not the real story, what is the real story? In other words, they obviously made up something that does not include this evidence. And you can't do that, right? So, in other words, the real story has to include all of the evidence. And that seems to be something the FBI is not interested in. So we're going to be looking at different units. We're going to be looking at, UAVs to find out what's out there, who makes what, who makes these different units, what are some of the companies, what are some of the models. We'll be taking a closer look. And then we're going to be taking a closer look at this spy plane that was in the vicinity. And the thing about this is FAA data. This is not a theory. This is not a conspiracy theory. The plane was there. The data is recorded at the FAA. You guys can go to FlightAware, you can go to Flight Radar, you go to any one of these websites and put in the tail number and put in the date, and you'll see it did exactly what you see on the screen. So it's the combination of the evidence coming together it becomes very disturbing, right? In other words, it's not just the UAVs that Jason found. It's not just the spy plane. It's the fact that both of them are at the scene of the crime on the same day, and then nobody seems to want to talk about them. You know, other than, you know, Jason who found them, me, you know, there's not a whole lot of people talking about this stuff. I think Ian Carroll's brought it up a couple times, but I don't know to what extent he's really, you know, dug into this. So to me, these are like the gorilla and the elephant in the room at the same time. Right. So in other words, we've got a spy plane and we've got UAVs flying around the venue at the same time. And we're going to take a closer look at this spy plane. What is this? This is a Hades aircraft that ostensibly is for the U.S. Army. I didn't realize the Army was into spying so much. I thought they were kind of infantry and foot soldiers, but ostensibly they tell us it's for the Army, and it's a business jet that's specially equipped, specially outfitted. And back in January, for those of you not familiar with date formats, people in Europe often use the day, then the month, then the year. So this was the 11th of January in 2025. And this article talks about how the U.S. Army wants to test launching drones from aircraft. And it's this aircraft. So the aircraft they're talking about being able to launch drones from is the aircraft that we see adjacent to the Charlie Kirk murder scene twice that day. It's this aircraft. And when I say this aircraft, they delivered 2 of these so far, and the second one is the one we're talking about. So this was dated. Look at the date on this article. September 10th, 2025. So this article was published the day Charlie was killed. But this aircraft had been in service for some time already. In other words, they actually delivered it a couple months earlier. But there was a story about it that day. Sierra Nevada Court accepted this bombardier for outfitting and equipping. So it's this aircraft. The other one hasn't been flying. The first one they delivered, they're putting all kinds of fancy stuff on it. It's not really flying around that much. This is really the only one that they've been practicing on and flying around with. And this is the one that was at the scene of Charlie Kirk's murder that day twice. It was there 3 hours before he was shot. So about 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. And it comes down from 41,000 feet cruising altitude down to 204 feet above Lake Utah. It slows down to 115 knots and then ascends back up. And it does communicate with the tower and talks about a missed approach. But their flight plan was El Paso to Kalispell, Montana. There was no provo in the midst. So flying a missed approach in the midst of a El Paso to Kalispell, Montana leg and descending from 41,000 feet to do so seems odd. And the fact that it's the day that Charlie Kirk was killed and at the location that Charlie Kirk was killed makes it a bit suspicious. It's not like they were doing this at Lake Tahoe. They were doing this adjacent to where Charlie was killed. So,
This is gonna bring new light to what Candace Owen just had breaking news on the guy that just got out of his non-disclosure agreement. This brings whole new meaning to it, to that meeting that the lieutenant colonels had.
because it's a trainer. And so people have said, well, wait a second, maybe that's, not really a Hades aircraft. And so it's important, I think, for people to understand that currently this is all they have as far as operating, flying Hades platforms of any type. This is the only aircraft. So let me share this with you. It says roll of Bombardier Global 6500, tail number N1098L. N1098L, serial number 60098, is a 2023 built Bombardier Global 6500 business jet that serves as the first prototype airframe delivered to the U.S. Army specifically for the Hades program. Originally owned by LaSalle Aviation, LLC, a defense contractor, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Leidos, by the way. So LaSalle Aviation is a wholly owned subsidiary of Leidos, and Leidos is the former SAIC. So for those of you who remember SAIC, that's who we're talking about here. It was transferred under a government-furnished property arrangement and is now Army-operated for testing, delivery, and integration. Delivered on November 25th, 2024, during the ceremony at Bombardier's Wichita, Kansas headquarters. And by the way, the aircraft was just in Wichita, Kansas this past week. It was then ferried to SNC, Sierra Nevada Corp, for initial modifications, including sensor bays, mission systems integration, and certification for military operations. As of October 2025, it is based at Biggs Army Airfield and used for flight testing, systems validation, and crew familiarization. Specific role: N1098L functions as a test bed to evaluate Hades core technologies in real-world conditions. This includes high-altitude endurance flights, low-level maneuvers for drone deployment and recovery trials, sensor fusion testing, SAR, MTI, in obscured environments, and AI-driven data exploitation. It is not yet fully missionized for operational ISR, but supports prototyping to inform the final 6-aircraft fleet. Public flight tracking, ADS-B data, shows it conducting unusual profiles, such as rapid descents to near ground level, for example 200 to 600 feet AGL, and slow speed passes around the 116 knots near stall speed, likely for validating drone launch and recovery, or steep approach procedures critical for Hades expeditionary operations. Significance: as the inaugural Hades prototype, N1098L accelerates the program shift from legacy platforms to jet-based ISR, enabling faster deployment, global reach on short notice, and deeper penetration into denied areas. It has logged over 1,200 hours since delivery, with Rolls-Royce Pearl engines enrolled in a corporate care program for reliability. Recent X discussions have speculated on N1098L's involvement in events, e.g. drone activity near civilian sites, but these claims lack substantiation from official sources and appear tied to conspiracy narratives. ADS-B tracks confirm routine testing flights with no declassified evidence of non-Hades missions. For official details,
No, there's no conspiracy that it's doing the low flight maneuvers for drone deployment right near on the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination, you know, and then coming back to pick the drones up as soon as the assassination is conducted. You know, there's no conspiracy there at all, is there?
I guess the thing about this Hades program that's disturbing is the fact that they keep talking about the Hades program and drones, UAVs. And that's kind of how we started this, was that Jason found a bunch of UAVs all over the place. So the fact that we got UAVs all over the place and we've got a spy plane that monkeys around in the world of drones, you know, what's the saying from Eddie Murphy? You brought this on yourself. So it's like, guys, yeah, you brought this up, not us. All right, so there's more to the story, though. One of the things that's exciting about doing this type of investigative journalism is in each one of these cases, we get introduced to new players, new people step forward, new heroes come and start to participate. At Butler, I got to meet Bill. Bill came forward and helped build this model of the venue, and it kind of changed everything. I don't know Bill. And now with this case, another gentleman's come forward, a guy named Fritz, and Fritz helped find a bunch of great stuff. One of the things that Fritz found is this: that the day that Charlie was shot and killed, an Egyptian Gulfstream was on the ground in Provo.
If you haven't seen the videos him and Jason Goodman did on the Trump assassination attempt, there was drones there too that were just like these. So go check that video out too. It's on his and Jason Goodman's channel.
About flying to Egypt to do the Gaza deal.
As you know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all.
Turns out there's another aircraft. And this aircraft is flying back and forth, basically where Charlie was killed.
Baron Coleman on Real Baron Podcast did a good video on this plane here and what everything it does. If you haven't seen that video, go check out his podcast and check that out.
Is this something they do frequently? Are they based in Provo? Anybody else talking about this? No. We look up the tail number N59906 and it comes back and says the registration status is in question. Status is in question. That's weird. And this is September 10th, by the way. So what I'm showing here, this is September 10th. This is the day Charlie was shot. Currently in question, meaning its registration may not be suitable for operation until resolved. The listed owner is registration pending. With the address, we got the address. Application was submitted July 31st by applicant Alpha Whiskey. And so we have these, a couple data points, and that's all it took. So the crowdsource the truth method kicks in, and the team goes to work, and next thing you know, we've got these guys identified. And we know who they are, where they are, and we pull them up on flight radar. And sure enough, they're flying back and forth. So the spy plane comes in and does its thing, and these guys are flying back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, but they're at 20,000 feet, 19,000 feet. Above sea level and Provo's at 4,500 feet or so. So these guys are, at about 15,000, 14,000 feet. What are they doing? Well, when you find out who they are, what they're doing will become a little bit more creepy. All right, so we see them, we track them down, and this is who they are. So the company is called Mark, M-A-R-C, and they've got a bunch of aircraft, and if we look at sort of what their mission statement is and what they do, it says Mark Inc. provides aircraft and pilots for flight operations anywhere in the world. Pride ourselves in our customer relationships. Over the years, we've provided specialized aircraft for U.S. federal government agencies, state governments, foreign governments, private mapping firms, oil, gas, and utility companies, civil engineering firms, and universities. And these are some of the sensors they offer. So these guys run a business of sensor aircraft. And the different aircraft are outfitted with different sensor systems. So they have LiDAR, but they've got a whole bunch of other stuff too. All right, so they've got the Air Midas camera. They've got the Optec Titan laser. They've got the hyperspectral camera, the Leica camera, the DMC camera data storage. I mean, this is some fancy stuff, guys. So this is a sensor plane with fancy cameras. Really fancy cameras. You see the Leica camera that they have, right? North America's largest provider of specialized contract aircraft and flight crews for airborne GIS, survey, and surveillance projects. Mark provides the industry a modified fleet of Navajo chieftains, and Merlin turbine aircraft equipped and ready for deployment. Because we own and operate our fleet of aircraft, we can usually respond to your data acquisition project within hours. Our dispatch reliability is excellent and supported by backup aircraft. All right, so these guys do surveillance, contract surveillance. You buy some old airplanes, you throw some fancy cameras in them, and then you get phone calls from the CIA when they want to film stuff. And here's their contact information. They're in Bolton, Missouri, at the John Bell Williams Airport at 4090 Airport Road. And you guys can get in touch with them in case you have GIS requirements. So, strangely, days ago, 2-3 days ago, the registration was in question. And now it's not. So, just simply chatting about this on X, formerly known as Twitter, and lo and behold, this thing went from, literally just a couple days ago, its registration status was this, in question, and the owner's name was registration pending, and this was days ago, and now all of a sudden, the registration is fine. Everything's great. So, N59906 is the 1974 Piper, and it is owned and operated by Mark Inc. in Bolton, Mississippi. Oh, I think I said Missouri. It's Mississippi. And there you go. So this aircraft was in the air at the time that Charlie Kirk was shot.
He states it was in the air right before Charlie Kirk, or right when Charlie Kirk was shot, but it had landed just before he was shot. So I just want to clarify that.
Ballistic evidence, some of the acoustic evidence, and a couple more videos. In fact, we're going to have a ton of videos to watch from different points of view, different perspectives, and we're going to take a look at that. So listen, and that's a big piece of the evidence here, is the sound of the gunfire at the time that he shot.
Above the tent, moving in the camera.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great. Great.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
We're going to review footage that was recorded at different spots in the venue because I'm using audio from these different locations to do the correct thump analysis. Now, what I've done is I've edited the videos where necessary. So if the video focuses on Charlie after he's shot, I cut it. Meaning we're not going to watch Charlie bleed and all that. That's not necessary. The videos I'm going to be playing, though, do go up to the point that he is shot. So if you find this disturbing, this portion of the video, you might want to skip over this next 15-20 minutes. what we're going to do is just review the different videos I have. I have so many different videos from different places. And I want you guys to watch the videos and listen to what you're hearing at the time that Charlie's getting shot. And as you're watching these, I want you to, kind of think at the first time you saw these, or the first time you heard about him getting shot, and the first time you saw the video, what was your initial reaction? Was it, oh my God, somebody shot Charlie from behind? Was it, oh my God, somebody shot Charlie from somewhere out there in the audience, in the crowd, from a rooftop? What was your impression? What is your impression as we watch this stuff together? So let's go through these together. I'm starting at the top of my list here. There's no order per se. We're just going to go through these one at a time. This is the one that I see a lot of insects flying around in this video. And this is the one that I think Jason has pointed out what he believes is a projectile. Let's take a look at this together.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? Too many. Okay, now five's a lot, right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
All right, now there's something that happens here at the moment that Charlie's shot. And I think this is kind of a big deal. Just as he's shot, right up there on the top, we see a flash. I think Jason and I reviewed this the first time. I've kind of looked at this a couple times, and this disturbs me. Is sort of just a split second before he's hit.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great. Counting gang violence. Great. Counting gang violence. Great.
Now to me, that looks like a drone coming in and taking off. It's right up here is where he's talking about. That looks like a drone flies in and then flies out. Let's go ahead and play it.
Counting gang violence. Great.
See it?
Great. Counting gang violence. Great.
And in the glass, I see this reflection of something. And I find this disturbing. One more time. There. See that? Right before the shot. And then the shot. So it's like a split second before the shot. And then we get the shot. Watching the glass up on top at the very edge of the video here. The very, very top edge of this video.
Counting gang violence. Great. Over the last 10 years. Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
Do you guys see that flash up there?
Looks like a drone flying in and flying out to me.
They're on the very top edge.
Great. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
I don't know. That disturbs me. All right, so make note of that. Let's go on to the next video. All right, so this is the Adam Bartholomew footage. This is the footage that Jason got directly from Adam, and Jason put the time code in there. This is the purest audio that we have for two reasons. One, it's Bartholomew's recording direct to the device. Jason validated that. And number two, he's not near the PA. He's up on the walkway. He's not near the PA. So what we hear in this video is the sound of the gunshot, not the sound of the gunshot over the PA. And that's a big difference. So let's listen to this together.
It's just there's just so much. So before we had a flag and you had it, so it's positioned above the tent, so it would be in the camera. And it moved. Holy shit!
So that's the sound of the gunfire. We're going to take the audio and move this into Audacity. This is sort of that trajectory. If it was coming from that vicinity, it would need to kind of come on this angle because there's a backdrop there, right? So when there were guys there filming in that corner, right? So there's a bunch of people standing back there in that corner area with cameras, and they were filming. And so there you go. So that vicinity. So if in fact the shot came from that vicinity, almost looks like a guy back there with an army hat on. It looks like an army helmet or something silly. Dark shirt with a white rectangle and some sort of hat. I don't know. I'm probably imagining things. And yeah, so something like that. I don't know. Now, if something like that happened and there was a weapon that was mounted up on the ceiling back in there, I imagine the FBI guys would have found that. We just looked at pictures of them poking around. So I imagine they would have found that. But this is the thing I can't find, and no, I don't know. Now, let me show you guys another exercise I did to see if I could figure out what effect is getting shot having on Charlie Kirk's body. And so we're not going to watch the video. I've broken this down into frame by frame, and you're not going to see the blood spurting out. There's no need for that. What you're going to see is I drew some anchoring lines on the images. And let me kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Around Charlie's shoulders, I've got some, like a red line. I made like a red arc to show the curve of his shoulders. I
just want to point something else out. Can you see right here with this segment over Charlie's back right here, this big pouch looking thing? That could tie into the squib theory if you haven't seen my other video on Charlie faked his death. This is why we're thinking he faked it, because it might have been a squib going up, and Trigger Smart did a real good video on that, and I did a review of that. So if you want to check that out, check that video out.
And that's to as a reference, because as the person's filming moves their camera, I wanted to have a reference as to how much of what we're seeing is camera movement. So I put one of the green lines on one of the balustrades of the fence to lock it in there. Now, if the camera moves to the left, you'll see that. If it moves to the right, you'll see that. And the red line is around Charlie's shoulder and back, right? So let's watch what happens as Charlie gets shot. Watch his body compared to that red line. So as he's hit, the first thing that happens is his shoulders and back cross that red line. That's just one frame. Okay, one frame. Now the camera's not moving. You see the green line is still anchored on the balustrade. Okay? And that's going to be 2 frames. So let's go. That's before he shot. Bang, bang. Look at how his shoulders and back have been pushed backwards. That's 3 frames. 1, 2, 3. So from here, you see the red line by his back? Watch. 1, 2, 3 frames. And he's been pushed back past that red line. Look at the green line by the balustrade, still anchored. So the camera hasn't really moved much in these 3 frames. This is 1/10 of a second. So 3 frames, 30 frames per second is 1/10 of a second. So 1/10 of a second, this happens. 1, 2, 3. In 1/10 of a second, he's pushed back behind that red line. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's keep going. 4, 5. And it looks to me like by the 4th, his head is pushed back. Okay, let's one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, look where the red line is compared to his shoulders and his back. So when I realized that it looked like his head was moving back, I said, not only his shoulders and back, but his head. So let's track his head. But before I do that, I wanted to track his lower back. So I put a red line where the chair and his his kidney area meet, and there's a red line there to see, can we detect any motion at his lower body. And I put the green line on the balustrade again, so you see the green line. So the green line's on the balustrade, and now let's go 1 frame, he's shot, 2, 3, 4, and you can see the shirt moving back behind that red line, 5, 6. In other words, the chair is not moving this way. He's not moving in front of the red line. He's moving back behind that red line. And then I did one by his head. So this red line is along the back of his head. I've got a green line at the balustrade. And let's take a look what happens here. So when he's shot, that's 1. And his chin goes down. So as he's shot, it immediately snaps his chin downward. Okay? Immediately chin goes down. And now watch how the head moves compared to the red line. It crosses the red line and moves back. Okay, let's go back to before he's shot. Okay, he's not shot yet. Here we go. He gets shot. 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. 5 frames. Let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. So this is 5/30ths of a second. 1/6 of a second. So 1/6 of a second, we go from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It appears to me that Charlie was pushed backwards. And his head goes back, his shoulders go back. Something goes flying back. I guess that's his necklace or something. So his necklace is flying backwards. You see that? You see a long trail there. I think that's the chain from his cross or something like that flying backwards. I hope. And then he starts to fall to the side. And so I believe this study sufficiently illustrates that the major parts of his body, his shoulders, his back, his head, as he's shot, these things are moving backwards towards the backdrop. And again, this is empirical evidence, right? This next video is a promotional video from a company called Elbit. Elbit is the 3rd largest military contractor in Israel, and they manufacture UAVs that kill people. This is the Lanius, and I want you to watch what the Lanius can do, and there's one particular capability that it has that we're going to focus on. Let's watch this together.
Notice these little drones up on top of this drone. That's what the little flying objects that they found look like, just exactly like that.
Elbit is the 3rd largest military contractor in Israel, and they manufacture UAVs that kill people. This is the Lanius, and I want you to watch what the Lanius can do, and there's one particular capability that it has that we're going to focus on. Let's watch this together.
Elbit Systems presents Lanius Search and Attack in One. New, innovative, autonomous, lethal solution based on racing drones. The Lanius conducts GPS navigation, flight, scanning, mapping enemy detection, and lethality in a complex urban environment. The Lanius is equipped with AI technologies that allows navigation to building, scanning the building to identify openings, scanning and mapping, object avoidance, enemy detection and classification, target incrimination by human and lethality. The system indemnifies blocked openings and can perform ad hoc lethal ambush.
So this means they could have just had the drone setting down somewhere right there in front of Charlie, and just had it locked on him as soon as he moved to the right position. Boom, locked onto him, and then boom, shot him. And then wait till all the chaos ensues and then fly the drone out of there like you see him flying after everybody starts running.
Ambush mode. One of the assumptions we were making early on was that these things needed to be flying really fast and shooting at the same time. Not if you have ambush mode. In other words, if this thing can sit somewhere and wait, take a shot, and then fly away, well, that's kind of game-changing. One more time, watch us.
Lethal ambush.
Remember somebody put a video out on the laser, that somebody said something about seeing a laser or something like that on another video. That could have been from that there, the drone lasering in, laser sighting in on them.
In one.
Comforting. Good to know that stuff's out there. So the question is it possible that one of these things was just sitting, waiting, takes the shot, and flies away? Is it possible? I don't know. But we sure see UAVs all over the place. Got the Hades aircraft. Hard to say. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the audio evidence, the acoustic evidence from each one of those videos. We're going to do the crack thump analysis and figure out approximately how far out was this gunshot taken, and see if we can figure out from where. I'm going to do that with my patrons, and I'll be right back with them in just a moment. For those of you who are not patrons, please consider supporting this type of journalism. Doesn't seem that anybody's...
Human beings in a mind. What's a mind to a king? What's a king to a god? What's a god to a non-believer who don't believe in anything? Will he make it out alive? Alright. No church in the wild.
Tears on skin in disguise as a feast. Rolling in the Rolls Royce Caliche. Only the doctor's got this, I'm hiding from police. Cocaine seats, all white like I got the whole thing bleached. Drug dealer chic. I'm wondering if a thug's prayers reach. It's pious, God loves pious. Socrates asks.
So this is where John Cullen's acoustic sounds come back. I know Trigger Smart did one on his with that one German guy with his acoustic sounds, but this is where John Cullen is saying that his come back to, right here on the Sorensen Center, right past those two little trees, which would fall in line with what Baron Coleman was predicting, that it came off the Sorensen Center, not the Losi Center, which is way back here. This is the Sorensen Center, this is the Losi Center, and his acoustic said that it's coming right about here. And in this video we're about to show you, there'll be a drone that launches right from this area.
I saw an episode that Jason just did the previous day with the gentleman that had been on site, a guy named Mr. Bartholomew. And he's on site,
Right.
Adam Bartholomew. So he films a bunch of stuff, and Jason does a show with him. Jason shows him the content, and I'm watching the show, and I'm literally flabbergasted. And I got in touch with Jason and said, we have got to do a show together. You come on, please, hypothetically speaking, show everybody what you found. So we did the show Tuesday night, and I think on my channel, I think it might be up to like 25,000 views now, which is way beyond anything I've had in recent times. So we did that show Tuesday night, sharing your findings again, and you walked everybody I'm giving everybody sort of like a recap, right? So you walked everybody through how you found a bird, and we were almost able to figure out, is this an egret? Is this a heron? I mean, it was almost that. Mavics. These are not, photographic drones, which, if we go to, so when you get a chance, you go over to the PDF and you open up the PDF I sent you. The first picture is in there because it was taken by Turning Point USA's drone. So they did have a photographic drone there that was taking some pictures and stuff like that. But the stuff that Jason found isn't flying at 200, at 250 feet and hovering. Stuff Jason found is flying right over everybody's heads at about 150 miles an hour. And the fascinating thing that, I just couldn't let go, nobody notices them. Nobody's pointing up and going, hey, Martha, what was that? Nobody notices them. In any of the footage that we've seen, nobody's pointing at the drones or, there's no
Hang on now.
awareness.
Let me ask you about this, because I haven't seen this before. So, Turning Point USA has a drone up. We should also talk about the timing of this, because this is obviously before everybody's organized here. People aren't running around like crazy. I don't think Turning Point was flying a drone after Charlie was shot, were they?
They may have had a drone kind of parked up there at 250 feet, 200 feet, something like that, that's just hovering and shooting downward. And the idea was to get a shot of it.
But remember, Brian Harple said that they didn't have a drone, and then they kind of contradicted themselves when they said they did have a drone, and they showed Charlie video before they got there of all the people there and everything, and was showing them pictures as they were driving into the place. So that's TPS USA line right there. They had a drone there. And the Brian Harper went on the Sean Ryan show and just straight point blank lied. But these other drones are moving at like 150, 200 something miles an hour, and they're guaranteed military drones. Nobody else has a drone like that. And we believe they came off of this Hades plane that dropped altitude to, 100, 200 feet off the water, and 100 something, 18 miles an hour, almost saw speed, and then came back 3 hours later and picked up the drones after Charlie Kirk was shot.
So, but I wanted people to understand, it's not like we're pretending that maybe TP, we're on top of this. Like TP USA has a UAV, but it's not going 150 miles an hour. All right, it's up high, it's shooting downward, and then typically it's just kind of going to hover or drift or something like that. You're not flying around 100 miles an hour. So what Jason found is not the TP USA drone. That's kind of why we're doing this. Let's go to the next slide in that deck, because I want to kind of walk people through the sequence of what happened since the show. So if you show everybody I think I've got two of your five are kind of highlighted here, right? So these are two of the 5 UAVs that Jason found. This is one of them. If you look towards the top edge of the screen, you see it in the actual, what would you call it? The actual, what?
Actual size. This is what I did for each of these, John, is I went through in a program called After Effects, which is like, this is what you'd use to track motion picture footage if you were doing visual effects in, any movie. So, I was able to track these things down to a sub-pixel level, and then I isolated them, magnified them sometimes as much as 2,400%, so we could just really see it, whatever level of detail was there. So that's what we did with these.
All right, so in my deck, I've got the one there that, doesn't look like a bird. Then we got this next one. It looks kind of similar to something. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of something maybe I saw maybe a year ago in Pennsylvania, so I'm not sure. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that later. All right, so it's time for the big reveal. All right, so what's been going on? Well, turns out you spent some time.
Okay, now listen very closely to what he says here. I think this is maybe the reason why we haven't heard from him. Listen very, very closely to what he says.
Turns out you spent some time talking to Corey Mills. And as a result of your conversations with Corey Mills and Eli Crane, seeing the work that we've been doing, these guys went to Congress and testified on the Butler shooting. And, I guess they felt they had, one shot. They talked about the puff of smoke on the rail and how it establishes effectively ballistic evidence of potentially a second shooter, and that it needed to be investigated further. Well, the story continues, just not in the public eye. And it turns out that Corey Mills and Eli Crane are congressmen. And you know who used to be in Congress? Uh-huh.
So they know her.
Yeah, of course they know her.
Probably, yeah.
Well,
they're all ex-military. Well, they were acquainted, right?
So you'll have to ask Corey or Eli next time you see him. Or you've met both of them. I don't meet people. You've met both of them. Right?
Mostly texting.
All right, but you've met both of them.
I have. You're right.
You met Eli, right? You met both of them.
Yeah, actually, the last time I saw Eli Crane was at a Charlie Kirk event. I spoke to him for quite a while at the inauguration party. There's a picture of us together at the party.
Well, I knew you met him. I didn't realize it was at a Charlie Kirk event. It's like, that's a little heavy.
Yeah, I just realized that.
All right, so let's go back to Tulsi. So Tulsi is the Director of National Intelligence. All right. And I don't really know what went on behind the scenes because it's not like they were checking in with me as they did what they were doing. But whatever they did, somebody started taking this seriously. Meaning Butler, right? And this whole notion that there could be a second and possibly even a third shooter. And basically somebody in Tulsi's organization, one of her senior people, contacts me via email and says, would you be willing to talk on Zoom? Kind of talk to us about what you found at Butler. This is the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And I said, of course. I want to find the bad guys. And if the bad guys are in uniform, or, the bad guys are our guys, yeah, hell yeah, we got to catch these guys. So, they put me in touch with Christy Nome's Inspector General.
Nice.
Now, Christy Nome has control over Secret Service now. Secret Service reports to Christy. And if you want, you can pull up it, if you want dynamically, if you go into Homeland Security, Office of the Inspector General org chart, you can pull that up and show that to everybody. So, the Inspector General from Homeland Security is basically Christy Nome's, internal affairs. Right? Is her Inspector General guy. And, yeah, I mean, these guys are pretty serious. So, the senior guy there, like, if you go to the org chart thing, I don't know, is there an org chart?
Yeah, I know it says meet the IG, Joseph Kafari. I've heard the name before.
He's a former Air Force, whatever the big air, what happens when you get in the Air Force? You get all this stuff. So,
Here he is.
yeah, well, he emails me.
Wow.
And says, I'm going to assign an inspector to this one of my investigators.
Wow.
And so, behind the scenes, I've been working with one of the investigators for the Homeland Security Office of Inspector General, and they're looking into Secret Service.
Wow.
Okay, now, obviously, Sean knows all about this. Sean Curran knows all about this, right? But these guys are taking this real seriously. So for those of you who've been supporting our work, that's how we got here. That's simple. All right, so with all that as a background, I got an email on Saturday. Can we catch up about the Charlie Kirk thing?
What was that? What?
With all that as a background, I got an email on Saturday. Can we catch up about the Charlie Kirk thing?
Wham.
As a background, I got an email on Saturday. Can we catch up about the Charlie Kirk thing? And that's when it hit me. This is not a transsexual furry. This is big. This is really big. With all that as a background, I got an email on Saturday. Can we catch up about the Charlie Kirk thing? And that's when it hit me. This is not a transsexual furry. This is big. This is really big. Because for them to reach out, and last night, I had the phone call. And I'm not going to mention names, I'm not going to tell you who I spoke to. But I will share with you guys, a little bit more detail about, which organization it was. It's kind of part of Tulsi's world. She's got 17 intelligence agencies under her. All right, so Tulsi has the CIA, the NSA. I mean, she's got, anything that's cool, it's hers.
All the three red things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like anybody who's licensed to kill works for her, okay? 17 agencies. And I think her budget, is in the 70 to $80 billion range.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
That's gonna fire George's brother.
And that's just the stuff that's on the books, right? Forget all the Black Ops stuff that we...
I think this is when Tulsi and them went and asked to look into the Charlie Kirk case, and Cash Patel denied them, blocked them from it.
Them too, right? So that's her. So she's got all that, but she's one of the good guys now. She's a white hat, and she's legit, and she's taken the stuff that Corey Mills and Eli Crane shared with her seriously. And I guess, I don't know exactly how it happened. I can only speculate, but next thing you know, I'm hearing from former Air Force, serious Air Force guy, Joe Kafari. I mean,
I think
you don't want your phone ringing and it's the Inspector General.
Well,
it's like
as
getting
long as
audited.
you're on the up and up, that could be very
Yeah,
good.
well.
But they've indicated to me over time that they are watching, and when I say they, I mean Corey, Eli, sometimes are, DMing and stuff, thumbs up and whatever. When we have good material, they're looking at it for sure.
Well, dude, I mean, you should simply put your feet up, kick back, light up a cigar, because, I mean metaphorically. It's like you wrote the verse in the song. It's like that's the song. It's like it's what Bob Dylan used to do. Bob Dylan used to show up at Joni Mitchell's house,
Right.
and add a lyric, and she'd be like, and then that's the song, right? So it's that kind of thing. So what you did added to what we learned the next day. So after the show, I'm back doing what I'm doing, and I stumble across, or somebody shares, using your crowdsource thing, somebody shares with me a link and says, check this out. And I go check this out. And this is this other story. And the other story is kind of crazier than the UAVs themselves. And so it's like, what? So this happens the next day. And this is this aircraft story, which we're going to get into in a second. But I've got a sequence I want to go through with you guys. So let's go back to the deck. Let me walk you guys through these slides that we've got in an order. And then we're going to show you, again, sort of, how this all comes together. And it's goosebump stuff. It's real goosebump stuff. All right, so the net of the conversation, and we'll get into this more in the patron-only portion. You found the drones. They didn't know they were there.
Wow. See, I knew they were drones.
Yeah, and they didn't know they were there. And
Before you go too deep, John, let me just put some color on this. Because a lot of people saw Palmer Luckey interacting with me on Twitter there. And setting aside any personal disdain that I might have for him because he's been just so insulting and so reprehensible, it's like if I put out a tweet saying, damn you, Tim Cook, that iPhone 17 is just no good at all. Do you think he'd be in the comments caring at all what I have to say? And it's actually even more anomalous with Palmer Luckey because ostensibly the people who watch Crowdsource the Truth and listen to me could be customers for the iPhone and might say, well, Jason knows about technology. If he doesn't like the iPhone, I'm not going to buy it. It's not like, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and the Defense Department is watching Crowdsource the Truth and saying, oh, well, we better not work with Anduril because Jason says there's drones. It was so telling that he was not just interacting with me. He was like an angry high school ex-girlfriend responding to every single thing that I said. It was in and of itself so conspicuous that it was just suspicious.
Let's put a pin in that and come back to that. All right. I wish we had one of those cork boards like down in Parks and Recreation with the. And we could put that.
Sunny
Put
in
the string in.
Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. So the net of it is, you found what they missed. All right, and we're going to show everybody who we're talking about in a second. You know, the organization we're talking about that I spoke to. This is 24 hours ago. All right, so 24 hours ago, I had this conversation, and the conversation was, all right, so you know, Charlie Kirk, and basically the person I was speaking to said, I'm not buying it. And
Not
I was
buying the
kind of
drones?
shocked. No, not buying the narrative, not buying the Tyler Robinson narrative. So this is
yeah,
this is
that
official.
makes sense.
Yes, this is a person who works, you know, somewhere in Virginia, right? And is saying to me, I'm not buying the narrative. We don't see this guy running around with a rifle anywhere. Where's the rifle? All right, so it's like, thank God there are people like us in high places that carry badges, okay? And when they, you know, heard / saw what you found, dude, I mean, we went into like DEFCON 5. You have no idea what, I mean.
So they basically
going on?
agreed that these are drones. They saw the pattern of the flight and the anomalies that we discussed. They agreed.
Put it this way. We'll just continue, okay? We'll just continue. The story, okay. So the net of it is, the email comes back after the conversation, 15 minutes, 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
Do you know whose they are?
Well,
Like,
if I had to guess.
Well, okay. So easy does it though. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
That's
possibilities,
right.
and tonight we're gonna explore the possibilities, right? So there's
Yeah.
battery powered possibilities, fuel powered possibilities. We're gonna look at those. So that's part of the show tonight. But they're asking you, what do you think these are? I mean, dude, they didn't see them. All right? So
Right.
just, we're not jumping to conclusions yet, but we're going to do some exploratory research tonight to figure out, do these things that we see in the frames that you've taken look anything like, I don't know, go to the slide after the Tulsi slide on my deck. Anything that you captured, does it look anything like stuff that we see some of these manufacturers making, right? So if we see something in your image and we're like, well, that kind of looks like, you know, the Tony and Steve drone that they're making down in Austin. That kind of looks like, you know, the what is this thing? Well, yeah, whatever this thing is, right? So if we see something, it's like, well, that looks just like the Raytheon double, whatever this thing. Well, that's a lead, right? That becomes a clue or a lead, and we'll follow that. But that's kind of, dude, they're like legitimately, we're stunned and legitimately want to know, you know, whose are these? And like, well, if we figure it out, we're going to let you know. Let's go to the next page. In fact, next page is one that you and I were talking about earlier today, which is another like crazy tactical, you know, it's like, whoa, what is this thing? Right? So maybe we'll go to their website when we get to the patron only portion if we have time, and we'll drill into this. But there's a bunch of these.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of companies making various types of lethal drones.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so, you know, all right, so bottom line up front, you want to let everybody know what happened? Let's go to the next page. This is kind of like a double header. It's kind of like you're getting 2 for 1. All right, it's like a surprise. You went to the Justin Bieber concert and Taylor Swift. All right. You ready for the next slide?
Yeah.
I did the crack thump
From Bartholomew's. Okay, and what does it tell you?
78 yards.
Wow. So what does that mean? Second shooter?
hang on. So let's go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide.
So just so everybody understands what we're saying, Adam Bartholomew, he is the videographer, the live streamer who provided me with his video that I found all these drones in, and he was standing up here recording. I sent you the audio from his video, and you did this calculation where you're measuring the time differential between the report of the gun firing and the sound of the projectile breaking the sound barrier, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right. You sent me the video. I extracted the audio MP3. I extracted the MP3. All right. So, and then what you see on the map is his location, and I was able to geolocate him because he looks off into, sort of towards the shooter, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we can kind of see where he is
Couple
relative
features,
to
right, of buildings and
right, to
stuff.
this concrete thing. Right. So I was able to locate him probably, within a foot.
Pretty
within,
accurate, yeah.
Within a yard. 3 feet one way or the other. He's either 3 feet this way, 3 feet, he's there. When you do the crack thump for Bartholomew, it looks like this. So this is, what does this say? Actually, this is stage right, but that's okay. Stage right, go back up to the map we were looking at a second ago. So what you see here, if you zoom into where Charlie was sitting at the middle of the dish bowl thing. Okay. So the purple dot is Bartholomew. The yellow dot with the red circle around it is the person who is filming right in front of Charlie, and that footage standing right in front of him. All right. That's anomalous right now, and that was the first one I did, which is kind of weird. So you and I are going to have
from TikTok and stuff, right? That was just publicly uploaded. So we don't know what's been done to manipulate. That's what's good about the Adam Bartholomew footage, is that we know he's an honest guy. I've got the metadata from that. I know when it started recording. It's a continuous unbroken recording. That's legit.
Exactly. Now, the question to the audience is, if you guys look at this map, and you know what footage I'm talking about. We're talking about somebody who was standing. There were two people in front of them.
It's the grisly footage of Charlie really bleeding.
Basically straight on. It's the
and that was one of the first ones to come out, John. That was out almost right away. A little weird.
Correct. And that crack thump takes us out to 137, 143 yards. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If there's anybody in the audience that has another version of that footage, it's a little closer to the original.
We need the original.
Share that.
Someone's got to know who shot it.
But you know what? Even if we got 3 people sending us 3 different versions, and one of the audio is different, right. So please send them to truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org. If you guys have the original video files, get in touch with Jason. Jason will walk you through how to get him these files. And if you've recorded it, we need to kind of sync up your video and your audio, and that's kind of why we need the original stuff. We don't want to get into too much detail. But if
some people have told me that they do have friends and friends who have kids who went there, and obviously this was a traumatic event, and there are people who have feelings like, oh, I don't want to publicize this video out of sensitivity to Charlie's family. And I mean, we share that sensitivity. The reason we're doing this is because we want to know who did this. So I hope that anybody who does know someone who's potentially made an original recording can think about this on those terms. We're not trying to exploit this footage. We need to get the original recordings from the person's phone who recorded it, so we can check the metadata of that recording and make sure that it hasn't been, edited or manipulated by and I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything malicious. I'm saying even when you just upload it to TikTok, we don't necessarily fully understand the process of how it's getting transcoded, what TikTok might do that changes the nature of the file. We want the original data to analyze. See, that's incredible. That's the first time you told me about this difference with Adam Bartholomew's footage, and I had always thought that it was a possibility.
No, I just discovered it. I mean, everything you guys are hearing, I mean, this is all in the last 24 hours. I mean, these are the latest discoveries. So we've got 3 different Audacity charts, right? So these are basically 3 different microphones, 3 different cell phones, right, that are being recorded in different locations. And those locations are represented on the map. And so this is what we call the science of where, right? The key is, where is the shot coming from? And that, is kind of important. So we do this acoustic analysis, measuring the initial crack that we hear in the distance of the thumb. And it's different for each one of the phones on, it's supposed to be different because they're
Right.
in different
Locations.
locations, right? Right. So if you go to the next slide, I'll show you sort of what I do. So the next slide, I start with the first one we got, which, like you said, came from TikTok. It was like a double TikTok. Well, that
Yeah.
reached out to 143 yards, which just so happened to coincide with the knee and elbow prints that we see in the gravel on the building rooftop.
Really? Who saw those?
Yes. The FBI. It's in
Really?
the FBI. Showed
Oh,
a
with those
picture
little
of-
cards on the roof, right?
with the
right.
little, it looks like candy corn or something
Right.
like that. It looks like candy
Yeah.
corn point. That's supposed to be the shooter's nest. Well, that is right there. It's like right where the red thing goes. So I was like, well, wait a second. The crack thump puts it right there, right? Maybe it's a pimply faced kid again, and it's a Dylan Cleveland. I'm Mr. Naive, right? And the little 3D kill box is on my shoulder. Now it's there, right? So now it lives there. But I'm like, come on. I got the crack thump puts the kid on the roof, end the story. We're done. Let's get out of here, right?
You got stuff to do.
Oh man. These guys, they're so good, and yet there's a saying in magic. Never do the same trick twice.
Right. Right.
And they did the same trick twice, my friend. They did the same trick twice, and I'm going to show you in the audience, when we get to the patron-only portion of the show, I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. The same trick twice, okay? So just let's put a pin in that, tie some yarn to that. We're coming back to that. All right, let's go back to the diagram. I measure out Bartholomew's video. Crack thump, 78 yards. 78 yards. It's not even close to the other guy. What the hell? All right.
Half.
I put my little doodads out there, okay? I put my little pins out there, all right. And I go to the next slide. So we go to the next slide. And I'm figuring all this out. And what I do, if you go to the one more, there you go. All right, so you got a yellow line, no, that's it, yellow and a red. All right, so see how you got a yellow circle and a red circle? That is the difference between 2,900 feet per second at the muzzle and 2,600 feet per second at the muzzle. All right, so for all you guys out there that shoot, I'm trying to give us a reasonable range for like a 7.62 round, right? So what we would take out of an AK-47 mag, a 308 type round, a 7mm round, a 284 type round. You know why they told you it was 30-06?
That puts it where they want it to be.
So they could show you a Mauser 98. Remember, it's like the bird flu thing. Why would they tell you it came from a bat in a cave in China?
Because that's exactly what it did not do.
Right, because we don't associate bats with the food supply. We don't eat bats. And
They don't
if
talk
it
about
didn't come from a
chicken
bat, it came
or-
from a pangolin. Right, it came from a pangolin. We don't eat pangolins either.
So,
So,
the penguin, actually.
dude, they're so good at this shit. It's like, this is a level of, like, twisted thinking. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like you have to see the genius in what these guys are coming up with here, all right? What I'm suggesting is any 30 cal round at the muzzle is coming out about 2,650, 2,750, 2,900. A lot of guys are going to say, oh, yeah, mine is 3,100. Okay. The net of the difference between 2,600 and 2,900 is the red circle and the yellow circle.
Okay. So it gives you a
All right.
zone to be looking at.
Correct. All right. So one is You know, the faster one and the other's the slower one. But it's somewhere in there. All right? So when you do a cracked thump from Bartholomew's recording, what that's telling you is the shot wasn't taken from where they told you it was taken from.
Right.
According to Bartholomew's recording, the shot was taken somewhere along the yellow line, the red line, or somewhere in between.
Now, wait a minute.
So in other words, it's coming from the Sorensen Center, just like Baron Coleman predicted on his podcast. If you didn't see that video, go check out his podcast, and he did a real good video on suspecting that it came from here, from Bartholomew's video also.
Video on the side looking at Charlie's right ear. All right, so looking at Charlie's right side, we see Frank on the video. And I
Frank
put
Turek.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, correct, Frank Turek. And I put that into Audacity. And I measure that and the crack thumps. There you go. All right, so now it's getting crazy. Let's go to the next slide. This is the punchline.
So what he's saying is that where these circles interact, that's more than likely where the shot came from, right in here somewhere, where these two circles cross. That's what the audio analysis predicts. It's somewhere 78, 73 yards right in here somewhere on the Sorensen Center. That's where the shot came from.
This is the punchline. So when I do the crack thump from the camera next to Frank, that gives me 75 yards. Bartholomew was 78. The way this works, guys, is where the two circles intersect is where the shot was fired from. Nobody has seen this before. This is breaking right now. Where the two circles intersect, give or take, rough and tough, is where the shot is coming from. This is science. Right now, if you go back in my deck to slide number 3, what did we see where those two circles intersect? Let's go to slide number 3. What did we see where those two circles intersect on slide number 3?
Oh, yeah.
We saw this. No, number 3, slide number 3.
This thing.
There you go. Yes.
That is the drone that took off right after the shot. That drone right there. It comes out of nowhere, takes off, and flies across the screen at like 250 miles an hour.
Number 3, slide number 3.
This thing.
There you go. Yes. That goes from where you see there. Jason, when we get to Patreon only, is going to walk you through the 4 frames. This object is where the two circles intersect. All right? And this object, so listen, check this out. So where do you hear this? One of our patrons, so be nice, one of our patrons wrote in and said that drone that you just showed everybody on slide number 3. So somebody writes me, says, that drone that Jason found in Utah looks a hell of a lot like the drone that Jason found in Butler. I'm like, huh? What? Oh my God. All right. You guys starting to see the gravity of the situation here?
But the thing is, this is way after Charlie is shot that Bartholomew photographs it here. It's loitering around waiting.
They're going so fast, nobody even knows they're there. So no, they're not loitering. They're going, right? You said it was gone in 4 frames, right?
But this is like 30 seconds after the shooting.
Are we assuming they weren't there for the prior 3 hours? I mean, I think, well, we see them in the zone.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. You're right. That's taken. Right there.
Who else is taking the shot from there? Okay, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying
it's interesting.
That was there. And let's go back to the circles and where the circles intersect. And then so you've got the two circles intersect. So this is based on acoustic analysis. Nobody's showing this. Nobody's sharing this. And now look at the green line. The green line is what I've been proposing all along, is that he was shot from the front in the throat.
I see. So
And-
you're saying anywhere within the intersection of these circles is where the shot came from. So like,
Yeah, this is give or take
It's
stuff,
close,
right? I
right,
mean,
right,
we're measuring off of iPhones. I
but
mean,
it's certainly not 140 yards. It's right in there.
right. If there's only one shot. And I think there might be two. I did a private Zoom call with one of these legendary COVID researchers over in Europe. And he gets on it. He's like, I don't want to get into this stuff. You know, I don't want to get
Why not?
But he said to me, go back to your Bartholomew footage. He says, open it up on Audacity. Watch the people flinch. The guy who's interviewing, the kid on the left with the darker
Yeah.
hair, flinch it. And he said, pull that up on Audacity. And he said, you tell me if you don't see two events separated by 7/100ths of a second. And lo and behold, son of a gun is right.
Let's say one more thing though about that Bartholomew footage, because this is also important, and it goes to that plane. That plane is an ISR, you know.
Hey, wait, you're jumping ahead. Wait.
No, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the drones, ISR
Yeah.
is intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance.
We're coming to
Adam
that.
Bartholomew's live stream was cut, and I've been positing a theory that a Bluetooth low energy attack directed at his iOS devices could have easily done that, and it happens 1 second before the shots are fired. Now, it could be a coincidence, but certainly if somebody didn't want a recording of it, that would be something to do. Electronic warfare to shut down recording devices.
Or any live streaming. Anybody live streaming in this zone just got
Zitzed.
we saw it. I mean, you showed it to us. You said, like, we saw it. It's like, what the hell was that? Well, dude, yes. All right, so this gets goosebumpy. This is what I mean. You guys have to leave behind everything you thought a day or two ago, because this is so much. This is like Butler. All right, this is crazy.
Now, we only got about 2 or 3 more minutes, John, before we want to.
All right, let's get to the plane stuff. All right, so let's jump ahead, skip the kids with the backpack crap, and let's jump to, in my slide deck is the picture of the plane. All right, so I stumble across this. Somebody shares this with me and says, you got to check this out. I'm like, what the hell is this? And it turns out, as Jason said, this is an Army Hades aircraft. It's a Bombardier G6500 that has its ADS-B transponder on. So it's telling us where it is and how fast it's going and what its altitude is. And the morning of the shooting at Charlie Kirk, this Bombardier jet for the Army's Hades program, a spy jet basically, comes down to 600 feet above the lake, slows down to 120 knots, does a loop-de-loop. Not a whoop-de-loop, but does a circle. Yeah, right? And then goes back up to cruising altitude.
So just so people
20
understand, this is the altitude chart where it's going down, and then this is the trajectory here where it's circling around the lake.
And we're going to do this live when we get to the patron-only portion of the show. Jason is going to walk you through this and the whole flight path. And it does it twice. In other words, it does it 3 hours before the shooting, dips down, flies around here, and goes back up. And then 20 minutes after the shooting, it comes down to 335 feet above Lake Utah there. That's not Salt Lake, that's called that's Utah Lake. And slows down to like 118 knots. Dude, this is
Near
almost stall
speed. Yeah.
Very close to stall speed. 300 feet over the water?
Seems
came all
dangerous.
the way down. What the hell? You guys forget something? And they did it adjacent to UVU, where we see the 5 UAVs
Right.
that you found. And so, when I shared this with the ODNI people,
Yeah.
they think this is the same group of people that were behind Butler. That is their
Whoa.
working theory right
I
now.
think so too. I just smell it on this.
And quite frankly, Jason, you're the one that's documented the UAVs in both locations. So get ready to get some pretty spooky phone calls. They want to know what you found, like legitimately, like what the hell are we looking at here? You've got the goods, man. You've got the evidence in both locations. And right now, kind of the working straw man theory is there is a rogue group similar to what we saw at the FBI. Remember the Peter Strzok, Lisa Page nonsense and all
Oh
the
yeah,
lunatics,
exactly.
Rosenstein. Imagine there's a group like that over at Langley with poison darts and all kinds of crazy stuff that half of it they get to do with DARPA.
ISR jets. They can do whatever they want.
Imagine that.
But listen, John,
And imagine.
we're butting up against the end of our
Oh no.
segment
Oh, yeah,
here,
we gotta
so
go.
people are going to be able to join us for the sponsor exclusive portion of the show. There's a lot more to talk about. It's going to be probably even longer than this. So join us over there on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/I am John Cullen, or on the Crowdsource the Truth channels. You can join
Human beings in a mind. What's a mind to a king? What's a king to a god? What's a god to a non-believer who don't believe in anything?
So you heard it right there. John Cullen was speaking with somebody from the NSA, and they requested the files from the FBI. And the FBI blocked them, but we haven't heard from John Cullen since. So I hope he's okay, and I hope someone really is taking this seriously and investigating it to the fullest. And this coincides with what Candace was saying about the military meeting with Brian Harpel and all them on the 9th or the 8th, I believe, of September, she said. While Charlie was gone to Japan and Korea, Brian Harpel was supposedly in Arizona on a military base meeting with a bunch of lieutenant colonels, like 10 or 11 lieutenant colonels, planning something. And this makes sense with this plane, this army plane and everything else, and these drones and everything else. So Brian Harpel needs some more looking into, and we need some serious investigation into this. And they said it looks like the same thing that went on in Butler. So let's everybody get in on it, and let's see what's going on. See what we can dig up on these people. Like, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and let's just pray that everything comes to light. Have a good one.